Carter, the power, Bryant. Polskeen's just struck out Alex Bregman. Is there anything cooler if you're a fan seeing tiger on tiger crime like Polskeen striking out Alex Bregman?
That's nuts, man. That's absolutely nuts. But I got to know. All right, so why I wasn't able to watch the beginning of your show. Sometime I'm able to check in. So what's this list? What is the
ESPN came out with a list of their best players since 2000.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm going to give you a second to look over this. Have you seen this?
No, I honestly have not.
Okay. I don't think Larry Fitzgerald belongs up there. Okay. I really don't. Not in the top 10. No way. No way, no how.
Okay.
What in the Rudy Poo is Baker Mayfield doing at 2?
Yeah, so there needs to be specifications anytime you do a list like this. Anytime. Because if you factor in the entire career, right, who had the best overall college football careers, it would either probably be Baker Mayfield or Tim Tebow, right? If you're looking at the whole body of work. Now, if you want to just
I don't care two Rudy Poos about body of work when human beings like Cam Newton and Joe Burrow exist.
Yes. So that's a different discussion for me. It's okay to say, hey, if we want to do a list of the greatest single seasons in college football history, it's either got to be Joe Burrow or Cam Newton. It's either got to be one of those two. So I hate it when people do list, especially with college football, and you do not separate the careers versus the seasons, right? But honestly, I really don't have a problem with Ndamukong Suh being.
I said the same exact thing.
I really don't have a problem with it because, a quarterback has such a huge impact on the game. Ndamukong Suh is the best college defensive tackle I saw in the modern era. And I'm not sure if it's really I
said the same exact thing. I completely agree with you. So the segment before, I said the same exact thing that you did. Here's my point, though. Okay. My only point was if you're going by metrics, which I think this might be Bill Connolly's list, but even if it's metrics, screw your stupid metrics. Your stupid metrics are dumb as shit if you're not going to put Tim Tebow in your top 3. Carter, he won 2 national titles. One of them, he was a part-time starter. Let's just call it what it is. He rotated in more than any other backup quarterback really in the modern era and probably should have won the Heisman in 2007 and in 2008. Like, stop with the bullshit. Stop. You're going to put Baker Mayfield above a 2-time national champion and a dude that murked human beings. Carter, this man feared Jesus like the other people around them feared him.
Yeah, okay. Here's what I would say. I do agree Tim Tebow over Baker Mayfield.
Not close.
I would definitely agree.
Baker Mayfield doesn't belong on this list.
I would agree with you on that. If we and because when I do lists like this, I try to mix in both your overall career and your absolute highest peak. But the bottom line is it's a lot easier to do lists like this if you just focus in on a single season because so many things change in college football, right? Joe Burrow's single season at LSU is the best college football season of all time. He played 15 games. None of those 15 games were bad. He did not have a single bad performance, which is absolutely insane. And we can talk about Jamar Chase.
The only one you could say would be Auburn. The only one you could say. And that was mainly because they ran the football at the goal line.
Yeah, and I actually, disagree. I think Auburn's actually in my top 5 for Joe.
People will stat watch and say he threw 1 touchdown and ran 1, and then they won't put context together.
Yeah, if you watch the game, it's insane. Like the offensive line had no shot versus Derrick Brown that day. I mean, Damian Lewis is one of the best guards in the NFL, and he got knocked on his ass 3 times in the first half, like flattened. You can't. I mean, Blake, you played in the trenches. No offense can succeed if your Pro Bowl guards are getting dismantled, and that's what happened. It's literally
and you had turnovers. It was before Alabama.
right.
The single fact that he did what he did in the modern era to a Clemson, Georgia, and Alabama defenses is Cam Newton played really good defenses. So did Tim Tebow. Generational type of players that were on those defenses. Carter, you do realize that he faced not only one, but two first-round corners in back-to-back weeks, and they roasted all of them. They beat the dog manure out of all of them. And you're going to come in here and tell me Baker Mayfield? Why? Because he got – this is – and let me tell you this. I wouldn't put Baker Mayfield on my top 10 list of best players since 2000, mainly due to the fact that he got tracked down by a cop. There's no way that a donut-eating fatty, such as what I'm from that world, so I can say it. All I am saying is there's no way you can get tracked down by a cop. And so I get to the point. And Ndamukong Suh, I would actually have him probably my top 3, top 4.
Yeah. I know I would too.
No way in hell that I'm ever going to allow someone not to put the 3 quarterbacks at 1, 2, or 3. Either you're going to have to give me Joe Burrow, Cam Newton, or Tim Tebow, and then shut up.
Yeah, and one more thing that was very interesting about this debate is I'm not sure Baker Mayfield is the best Heisman Trophy winning quarterback under Lincoln Riley. I'm not sure if he's the 3rd best, right? I think one season that is underrated is Kyler Murray's Heisman Trophy season. Analytically was ridiculous. There's only 2 offenses, Blake, in the modern era that average 8 yards per play versus Power 5 offenses. It was 2019 LSU and
2020
and Kyler Murray, but whichever year that was, 2018 Kyler Murray. Yeah, he was truly spectacular. So yeah, I wouldn't have Baker Mayfield that high. Obviously, if it's a defensive list, the number 1 player for me is either Suh or Tyrann Mathieu.
It's Suh for me. It's Suh for me in reference to you cannot take God. I say Suh, but then Tyrann. Here's my thing.
That's about out.
Ed Reed has no business being over there before Tyrann Mathieu does.
Yeah, if we're factoring college, yes. NFL, it's not
I mean, again, you said college player since 2000. Tyrann Mathieu had 2 better years than Ed Reed's career. I mean, come on. You came in here hot, so let me ask you the final question because we got some LSU stuff we got to get into here. Larry Fitzgerald that's abysmal too. Larry Fitzgerald in your top 10 when you had dudes like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, et cetera. Carter, Devonta Smith won a Heisman.
Oh, yeah, but I can also see Bill Connolly saying, I'm not including 2020, which would I didn't read the piece, so I'm just giving you the devil's advocate take. Then it gets down to Larry Fitzgerald or Jamar Chase, or I'm trying to think of other like Biletnikoff seasons that were just truly spectacular.
Do you really legitimately think that Larry Fitzgerald was more impactful than Malik Neighbors?
I mean, I would come off super biased saying Malik Neighbors, but
you see my point. There's no reason that if this guy's the number 1 receiver on your list, that you should be able to have a debate about Malik Neighbors. And I love Malik. I adore him. I am just saying, good gracious ass bodacious.
Yeah, but Blake, I mean,
don't do it.
You could make a strong case that Larry should have won a Heisman. He was 2nd in the voting, if I'm not mistaken. Larry is the best college receiver that I've seen in the modern era, right? It's hard for me to not be biased towards Malik Neighbors, who I think career-wise had the best career at LSU, and Jamar Chase had the best peak wide receiver season at LSU. I don't know. I guess I would need to go back and look at Larry Fitzgerald's tape. And it's ironic you brought that up because I thought the commenter was responding to what I tweeted about Larry Fitzgerald today. I had a long thing on Larry Fitzgerald and his college career today and how the Pitt Panthers, if you put together the best NFL players of all time, the Pitt Panthers might beat everyone with their all-time team. If you put together their all-time
They
players,
got some dudes. I mean, Dan Marino, Larry Fitzgerald, Aaron Donald,
Darrell
Shady
Revis,
McCoy,
Darrell Revis too.
Darrell Revis,
and Mark May. People remember.
Dude, I might go start a dynasty, college football 25 dynasty with the Pitt Panthers.
And my point, putting all that together, was Pitt has only won 10 games twice, and they've had all these ridiculous players. Damn. People forget, like, James Conner was really good at Pitt, and he's still one of the best running backs in the NFL. He's fighting the age cliff right now. But I don't know. I would really need to go back and actually watch the games. But I don't know. It's tough for me to go against Larry Fitzgerald because he was probably the best and still the best. And then it gets into Julio
Jamar
Jones.
Chase, Justin Jefferson would put him in a blender. Sorry. There, I said it.
Oh, okay. I'm with you from an LSU fan.
I know that Larry didn't have a drop in the NFL for like 5 straight seasons. So I do understand that. Let's get to some LSU football stuff here, buddy. We finally made it, right? Like, so we're finally here because on Thursday, we're going to be able to be graced of LSU being on a football field. Carter, we've talked about a lot. I kind of want to summarize all of this, okay? I'm going to lead off with a quirky question for you, though. LSU went and got a punter in the portal. And I think that special teams, even though you didn't punt hardly ever, could play a massive factor in this season that we're not looking at. Now, I don't think, I don't want to deep dive into special teams. Do you think that is going to be a massive factor there too? Because here's another thing. You bring in Xavier Thomas. What if he's able to be electric like he was in Mississippi State, returning punts, returning kicks? Carter, I know it's not a big thing that we're talking about here. I don't know if it's not something that we need to address.
Yeah, no, look, it is. I mean, first off, on the Xavier, this is a guy who's had a punt return touchdown versus Georgia at the end of the second quarter of a game. I mean, when, Kirby's telling him, hey, whatever you do, the only way they're going to score is if they get – and he did it. I mean, Xavier is a very special playmaker with the football in his hands. Especially if you just tell him, hey, go make a play, he's going to go make you a play. I am very enamored with Blake Oschendorf, the transfer, obviously coming in from Louisiana Tech. Shout out North Louisiana. Shout out Rustin.
47 yards per punt.
And something else is he is tied on the team for the second tallest player at 6'7". So this is a physical specimen. If you look at some of the other LSU punters, I mean, there were units. Like Donnie Jones was a unit. Zach Van Rosenberg.
Brad Wing was the most agile punter of all time.
Yeah. I mean, you don't normally think of punters being ridiculously athletic, but Oschendorf definitely is. I mean, this guy's a unit. So I'm really excited for him. And that was a non-negotiable. And it just wasn't discussed a whole lot because we're so focused on portal DTs being the biggest area of need. Portal punter was up there for me, if not the number one position, because they needed some Peyton Todd competition in there. And the second thing, Blake.
Carter, I don't think there's a competition. I have zero, like, this kid's it. Like, day one, snap one, punt one, because, look, you're going to have them. It would be mesmerizing if Garrett Nussmeier at year one as a first-time starter comes in and does what Jayden Daniels does now or did last year. I am not saying that Garrett can't do it. I want that to be understood because the kid's been here a long time. He's highly just got so many great traits with him. Carter, you had 16 possessions and punted 4 times against Wisconsin. So, yeah, I do think that field position can be a very big deal here that we don't discuss.
Yeah.
How do I want to ask this? I know that the defense will have to get better when you do this, but could you imagine a game where, like, in 2022, you had some really good punts inside the 5. Mississippi State, a muff punt got you back into that game. We never talked about it as much outside the Malik Neighbors drops and then that.
Right.
Played a massive factor throughout the stretch. let's get to these two bigger things. Let's start off with our defense. Now that we're here, what are some things that you're keying in on starting this week with camp being opening up?
Yeah. So one final thing on the special team,
Okay.
and it'll be brief. The LSU offense, if we know they're not going to be as good as they were last year, which they're not, we may never see an offense as good as either 2019 LSU or last year.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, or 23 LSU. So if that is the case, in theory, you're going to punt the football more. If the LSU defense is going to be better next year, which we think they will be, guess what happens? You're going to have more punt returns. So it's going to be a little bit jarring for a lot of LSU fans because you don't think about the punt game as much because it wasn't really a factor at all for LSU because the defense sucked so bad and Jayden was so damn good that it was a touchdown kind of game. That's not really how most football games work. The punting game is a bigger deal, and that's why you need the punting game to be bigger. But as far as your defense is concerned, like the first thing obviously is what is the defensive line rotation going to be like? That is just to me the biggest question going into this year. And I think there are two dichotomies that are happening at the same time. You have a defensive end room that has a lot of guys that you feel somewhat comfortable about with Kevin Peoples as a coach of the defensive ends. You have a defensive tackles room that not a whole lot of people feel all too comfortable about. But you have a defensive tackles coach in Bo Davis. Both Peoples and Davis are just huge upgrades over what you had last year. How do they sort all of that out? And what does Blake Baker want to do with this front as well? So I think the organization of that defensive front is to me the biggest story of the next couple of weeks because that's going to play a big role in how those off-ball linebackers play.
Secondary is a concern. We talked about this last week. I'm not going to spend much time on it because of how much we talked about it last week with Toviano and all that stuff.
Yeah.
However, Carter, I hate to do this. I got Thursday, doors open up. I said all offseason that when the doors open up in fall camp, I'm running at D-line. Let me see what I got here. I'm not doing that. I got to go to DB. I got to find out who you're rotating in and out of there, right? Like if Carter lists one, day one, who were the starters? Now, guys could be rotating, injury, nicks, knacks, cattywhacks, whatever, but they're giving us the entire practice. I need to see who's on both boundaries. And I think that that's going to tell so much about what their thought is. Look, we're playing the best dude, or we're going to go with some seniority here because these guys have played and we don't know what we have with these young guys. I think out of the gate, they're going to tell you exactly what they believe. And for me, that is the biggest thing because, look, I know what you're doing at defensive tackle. Carter, I mean, they keep telling you, look, man, sorry, we're rotating. Baker talked about it last week. Brian Kelly talked about it at SEC Media Days. Who are you putting out there? And if you, Carter, I think it's the biggest question mark going into camp, even though I thought it was going to be D-line.
Yeah, and Blake, this unit has a chance, and look, this will get clipped or whatever. This unit could go south really quickly if guys just don't step up. And it's important to be direct when it comes to content creation. We're talking about Tyrann Mathieu a minute ago. Once again, no one's asking for Tyrann Matthews. We're looking for John Battles. We're looking for guys that'll just go out there and just get the job done.
Carter, I'm looking for 2022.
That's it.
None of those guys got drafted outside of Jay Ward. I think you got one draftable guy in the defensive. You got experience. You got some talent. Scheme it up. Tape it up.
Yeah. And Blake, a lot of this is, especially if you are truly going into this year with Sage Ryan as one of your starting safeties. I mean, he will be the straw that stirs the drink, man. I feel somewhat comfortable with Jordan Gilbert, but man, they really need Sage Ryan to be good. If not, I'm with you, Blake. I'm open for the young guys to step in. I'm open for Deshaun Springs, formerly McBride, stepping in. I'm open to hearing something on Kylan Jackson. I'm open to Jawan Johnson, who got a single digit number right out the gate. So I'm
What's
very
his
interested.
number?
He's number 5. They hooked him up. Blake, you know how I feel about this.
Why
Right
are we giving Jayden Daniels his number away?
Or and just right out the gate, man. Get it.
Bro, you retire Heisman Trophy winners' numbers. You didn't give 72 away. Or, yeah, you haven't given 72. Oh, no.
No, they've had 72s, yeah. They should retire Dorsey's. Well, I'll tell you this. I know.
Burrow, no one is anyone wearing 9?
No one would. I don't think anyone ever.
Oh, okay, well, we're going to disrespect number 5? It's that, Carter, it's blatant disrespect. He's the second best quarterback to ever play here.
Yes, I will say this, though. I will say this. That single-digit prime, it's prime real estate. And there is – I will – okay.
The Yankees have all their single digits taken.
As far as the jersey number thing, I know of people that were involved in 07 LSU. I won't get too much of the details. They are not happy that number 72 is still worn at LSU. There's quite a few people that.
Well, Carter, we're talking about a Heisman. You won't see anybody wearing 20.
No.
I mean, come on.
But it's number 5, Blake.
I don't give two flying fucks what it is.
Single digit, baby.
I mean, bro. Carter, we went a decade plus with Les Miles. What was the one complaint that everybody had?
Bad QB play.
Bad QB play. You had 2 dudes walk in here and put their nuts on the table and win Heisman trophies and literally kick the dog shit out of everybody they played defensively. And you gonna sit here and try to tell me, come on, bro.
Dude, it's recruiting. I will say, if there is one thing I would agree with more than anything else with Deion Primetime Sanders is you don't give a single digit out unless you've proven something. That's it. That's my only thing. I'm okay if they.
By the way, did you know that Shadur Sanders had the most rushing attempts for them last year at 111 attempts and negative 77 yards?
Yeah, because they count sacks against.
Side note, but continue.
But still, Jawan Johnson getting number 5 right out of the gate. So it's got to be something. I mean, look, I brought this up randomly. I'm trying to do more TikToks to reach out to the younger generation. Here's what I would do if to make all the Georgia players stop doing what they're doing. If you get in trouble, you lose your single digit number privileges. A lot of their best players recently that have gotten in trouble, they wear a single digit number. And did you know, Blake, in college, defensively, all numbers are eligible at all positions. So if you're an off-ball
you can't be a single digit and be an offensive lineman.
Yeah, but on defense, you can wear any number. So if you're a linebacker,
why are we keeping offensive linemen out of here?
I think Will Campbell should be able to wear number 7. I am a firm believer.
No, they make it because he would have to report as eligible.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Change the rules. If I want my offensive lineman in single digits, if they deserve, you should not discriminate. I'm speaking on behalf of your species. You should be happy.
All I'm going to say, giving number 5 away really pisses me off. Just saying that out there. All right. We talked about some special teams and defense. Carter, I think that this entire offseason we've gone through when we talk about LSU football and say, yeah, Jayden Daniels is gone, but Garrett Nussmeier's coming in and brother can play. We've said that, well, you're replacing 2 first-round wide receivers, but man, Kyron Lacy came in here and this spring kind of went off.
Yeah.
CJ Daniels had a really good year in a running offense at Liberty, I might add. You might be stacked by bringing in guys like Xavier Thomas, and is Chris Hilton going to take that next step? Oh, by the way, the freak of nature, Caleb Jackson's at running back. Carter, I don't know it. I know the premise, and I have been saying it and agree with it, that you are reloading on offense. For the final time before we see him again, I mean, you got a lot to replace. Are we? Do we need to see some things from them offensively, in your opinion?
Yeah, you do. And for one, one big key to this offense is Mason Taylor, right? EA College Football puts him as a top 100 guy. Best run blocking tight end in the SEC last year. This is a guy that has a golden opportunity of taking a massive leap forward, and his job becomes harder, next year. Because look, everybody's job becomes harder with Jayden not being able to run the football the way that the way that he did, Blake, because that was the running game. Also, something else, and this was a case more so in 2022 and 2023 because, 2023, Jayden was just so prolific in every way. But, Blake, even when Jayden had his rough games, analytically, LSU's running backs were unfreaking believable at breaking tackles. And what has been shown in the NFL, and just it makes common sense, dual threat running backs add so much for your running back tackle breaking ability because as a defensive end you can't crash down because Jayden can pull it and he's gone. He's really gone. You lose that, right? You do. So everybody has to step up for this running game to work. Everybody's blocking assignments going to have to be better. The play calling, the sequencing, and all that stuff is going to have to be better. And Josh and Caleb are going to have to be better in taking that step forward. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to work out. But I'm with you, Blake. We'll see how things roll out versus a UCLA defense that's going to throw a lot of exotic stuff their way. I say UCLA, but USC defense. But it is UCLA defense from last year throwing stuff their way.
Brother, I mean, let me tell you this. I don't think people are ready. I really don't. I do not think people are ready, this fan base, because they saw USC's defense a year ago. They don't understand the amount of pressure that their new defensive staff is going to send every single snap. Carter, here's the thing. I went back and watched their spring game, a spring game. They were blitzing all over the place. And I got to tell you, brother, they got some athletes at linebacker. You bet. All right. You think I'm playing with you. Listen to your boy. Go back and watch some of USC's games from a year ago. I did it all weekend. It was my hobby all weekend. Went back and Alex Grinch sucked. They got some playmakers. You know what it felt like? I was like, God damn it, we really are the same in every single level. Because you got guys like Harold Perkins and, brother, they got some linebackers at USC that can fly. So game one going into it, I feel so much more comfortable, though. I say all that to say this, too. I feel so much comfortable that you have a guy and a quarterback that was in an SEC championship game. It's never going to see a better defense. Right? Like he's not going to see it and performed. If he did what he did against Georgia, if he did what he did against Wisconsin, and look, I honestly, if I'm being real with you, I thought that his Bama game wasn't as bad as people made out to be. He went 50%. I thought it was pretty acceptable. You went balls to the wall, big dog.
Yeah.
I just think that you got to see it. But Carter, for the first time since I've covered this team, when you have this amount of exit, brother, we reloaded. There ain't no rebuild here, I don't think. Now, in reference to statistically what last year's team did, you can't really replenish that. Talent v. talent is what I'm discussing, I think.
No, they're going to be good. I really do think the LSU offense will be wheels up, and they still have a good shot. Since we're doing like all-time comparisons, they still have a real good shot of being closer to a top 5 LSU offense of the modern era. I mean, they could be really good. And Blake, especially if you compare it to other years with a first-year starting quarterback at LSU, you can make a case that this is the best situation a first-year starting quarterback at LSU has been in because of the offensive line, because of the play-calling continuity. I understand you lose the main guy, Mike Dimbrock, but it's still essentially the same framework outside of the guy who actually called the shots. Everything other than that is still back. So you feel pretty good about Garrett Nussmeier going into this game. It'll obviously look very different. Garrett has said as much, but I still think he is going to be very good.
All right. One other thing that I have mentioned here and want to get your thought on. we're going into the season. Me and you talk a lot of football here. Okay. Actually, it's all we do. What's your prediction for this team? I'm probably going to finally give one tonight going into it.
Oh, you can't. You can't do. We're still too far.
No,
away
I'm talking about. I know. Okay, let me rephrase the question. Before fall camp starts, what's your projection?
Okay, because you do gain some.
I'm going to. I always change it. I always change it from now. Fair. I should have worded it better. That's my fault.
Yeah. So Blake, I take the schedule format very seriously, as you know. There were just a lot of things that went LSU's way, and that has really talked me in to LSU being a very solid playoff team, right? On the back end of a 12-team playoff. I think historically that's about where LSU is over the aggregate. And yes, am I concerned about the overall personnel about LSU? Yeah, I am. I'll be quite honest, especially defensively on all three levels. There's a lot of question marks that I have. Like we just discussed about, the running game and all that. There are some major concerns there. But Blake, if we're getting down into the nitty-gritty, the way the Ole Miss game set up on LSU's schedule was so nice. And if they win that game, they will likely have a good chance, even if they lose versus USC, to be in position to make a strong playoff push. So, yes, I really am bullish on LSU going into this year. And that concerns me. It does, because when I actually do a two deep and, put all these notes together here, I don't see a special team. I just don't. Outside of the game's most important position, which is the offensive line. This is the best LSU offensive line I've seen. We'll see what DJ Chester can do, but they're the best. I think that alone could push LSU through some really tough spots, and they could finish this year I have them the highest likelihood opportunity of going 9-3 this year, but we'll see. And maybe 9-3 is good enough to get into a playoff, but 10-2 is very reasonable. If they go 10-2, they're probably in.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, if I'm being honest.
Look,
all right.
Look, and one final thing. I think this is very key. Everything as far as the schedule for LSU that could have gone right went right. Like, look.
You got Ole Miss at home. You got Bama at home. I mean,
and Blake, I'm releasing.
You gotta go to Arkansas. So let me tell you this. Can I tell you a very, very, very pivotal game in their season?
Yeah.
A&M.
A&M. Yeah. I think they'll lose that game. I really do. That's one of the higher.
Bro.
Dude, they're good.
At some point, we look at A&M and say, well, they got Jimbo. They ain't got Jimbo no more. Brother, they probably got three dudes on that defensive line that will – I mean, it's going to be a war. Remember the first half this year? Think of the first half of this past game this past year. Oh, Blake, it was 11. It was senior day. I don't give a shit. Both O-line and D-lines were fighting their asses off. Nick Scouridon might be the best defensive player in the SEC. He has that potential.
I saw one mock draft, him number one overall in next year's draft.
Yeah.
I'm with
you. Realize he faced 3 first-round tackles last year. 3. He had, I think, 6 sacks.
He's good. No, Blake. I think A&M is sneaky good this year, and I could easily see a path through LSU. They lose in a shootout to USC, and they lose to Texas A&M, but they win all their other games, and they're in.
Oh well, if they do that, they're in.
Yeah, that's and I'm releasing I'm trying to do more TikTok short form. I might just stick with YouTube, but there's just so many things outside of that, because those 2 games do not set up too favorably for LSU. But All the other ones, for the most part, do. Now, Arkansas is kind of sneaky because they'll be coming off a bye week, and LSU will be coming off the Ole Miss game. So it's going to be strange. But shout out to Jared.
Jared with a super sticker. And then we got another one here from Serene and Keen with a $5 super chat. So could Bo Davis get Pius coached up and take the next step and be disruptive? Your thoughts? Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, I think he gives you a high floor. I don't think you're going to see anything truly special. All you're looking for there is, can he give you something? And I think he can. I think he can go out there, hold up blocks, meat and potatoes, get the job done. But yeah, I think that's about where you need to be with him. But I don't. He's not the prototypical kind of guy that Bo Davis puts out there, and then you're looking at him as like a day 2 or day 3 draft pick. But I think he's going to be pretty solid.
You're going to really find some things out quick. Let me tell you, last thing, and I'm getting you out of here.
Yeah.
You want to see how Gio Paez and JVR Suggs fit in the SEC? You got the biggest experience that you can get, buddy, this LSU offensive line. So if they hold their own against him, Carter, I'm going to be a little honest. I'm going to start being a little bit more bullish about them than maybe I normally would have been. You get what I'm saying? If you hold your own against LSU's O-line, this starting on Thursday, I might be like, Carter, we might have to come in and be like, shit.
Let's go, guys.
Let's go.
Let's go.
However, I don't know if that's happening. Yeah. So, again, all right. Carter, the Power Bryant, every Monday. Thank you, buddy, as always.